How you doing today, y'all? In this video, we're going to be talking about SSR cards, the rage cards specifically, how we should pick them and choreograph them with our teams, their rates, their rotations, how to promote them, and how to disassemble them. So if you have any questions on SSR rage cards, hopefully this video can supply you a little bit of knowledge in that area, and we can go through it together. So without wasting any time, roll that intro. Basically follow along with me while I'm doing this for my team. I already went ahead and did it a little bit ahead of time so that I wouldn't just be sitting here staring at cards like, maybe I want this one. Like, no, I already know what I want. So I will show you how I did it, and that way you can mimic or imitate it to get the same results for yourself or for your team. So let's go ahead and open up the card book and swap to the rage card tab so that we can look at all of them in real time. Let's go ahead and deselect R and SR so that we can get a general idea of the end game cards that we're going to be looking at. Now, I'm not going to explain every card in detail. Pretty much anything that I thought would be viable for my team, I'll go over that. So for my team, what I was looking for is, if you know the base of my team, it is sort of reliant on AoE buffs, AoE debuffs, just every unit benefiting the entire team and debilitating the other team as a whole. I'm not mainly focused on arena, I'm not mainly focused on trace specimen. My main focus was just having a team that works really well together so that they can do, you know, average or above average in everything instead of being the best in one thing. So the first one we look at decreases the skill cooldown time of all your skills by a turn when moving on to the next wave. That is not helpful for us in arena. In arena, there's only one wave. In any sort of fight where there's only one wave, that is not going to benefit you. Recovers the total HP by 20% when moving on to the next wave. If it's sort of the same explanation, I'll go ahead and skip on. Fills up the attack bar when moving on to the next wave. Fills up the rage bar when moving on to the next wave. Okay, now this is different. Gains the protection effect by 20% of your HP whenever the battle begins. So, sorry, it's the opposite sort of effect for these cards. Increases the attack of all allies by 10%. Now these are actually really good for the arena, especially cards like this where it will give you a buff, but my team already consists of attack buffers, so I am not really in need of this card, but that would be very helpful in the long run. Now this is one that I went ahead and said would be useful for my team. It increases the attack bar of all allies by 100 when the battle begins. So even though it's whenever the battle begins and it's not reliant upon the future waves of the match, Josephine's purpose on my team is to help boost my entire team's speed, help them make the first move, and so she's going to lay down a speed buff on my team so they can take more turns faster. Now the benefit of having her attack bar increased by 100 as well as everyone else's attack bar is, even in the beginning wave, that is a very important wave to have control. So if you have, you know, an attack buff, that's great for, you know, beating the first wave, and then every wave after that is not really going to help you that much. But with the speed, you can go ahead and gain complete control of the battlefield, separate yourself so that you can increase your rage bars, or move in for the kill faster so that you can crowd control the enemy, or do pretty much whatever you need to do. So, and then we will also get our cooldowns back faster. The thing about speed is it is generally more useful than other stats because it will caveat off any stat you put it into. Like if you have an attack buffer, then the speed will help you get the attack buff off faster, which in turn helps you get the cooldown off faster. So that's why I think this would be a great addition to one of the members of my team. Now we're moving on to like the specific area cards. This card increases damage inflicted to the enemy by 15% in trace specimens. So if your entire team is pretty much focused on doing trace specimen 11, these are going to be a good card to put on those units. Since your main focus and main goal is trace specimen 11 anyways, you don't really need to be benefited in arena with the team that is using this card. Same thing with all of these. Like if you're benefited in the battle center, if your entire team is based on party missions, or if your entire team is based on mercenary missions, these card is going to be good for those teams. It's just not going to help you in other areas, but it will not matter if your entire team is just based off doing one thing. This is a good type of card to look at. This card is pretty good if you are looking at an arena team that has a lot of crowd control, this can potentially save you from having to put in a lot of effect resistance in a tanker or in a unit that has a low resistance and a high susceptibility to being crowd controlled. So that's a very good arena card, or basically a first match card to have on a unit that needs more resistance. Now for these cards that benefit attacking a particular type of dealer or a type of tanker, I'm a little bit split on that, because obviously if the enemy team had 2 tankers or like even 3, then this is a very nice card to have on your unit. But again, if the team has no tankers, then you will have completely wasted your passive. So it's a little bit of a toss-up. Once we're like very, very far in the future and we can have a lot of these cards maxed, then it's not going to be a big deal to have, you know, one of these to slap on a unit whenever you're going into a fight like that. But that's going to be the same for all of these types of cards. If you're fighting a dealer, a tanker, a supporter, it's only going to benefit you if the enemy team has, you know, that type of enemy on it. Now these types of cards, whenever the enemy are under an ability, that is completely dependent on your team and dependent on the enemy's susceptibility to be enabled. So if your team has a bunch of stuns or a bunch of, you know, crowd control, then this might be a good card to have on your attacker unit if they're going to be attacking crowd controlled enemies. But if you're fighting a boss that's not able to be put under an inability effect, a lot of bosses have that. If the enemy has a Popo on their team, which 99% of people in Arena have a Popo on their team, and he puts immunity on his team, you're not going to be able to make use of this card either. And pretty much the same goes for all of these other types of cards. If the enemy is stunnable, if the enemy is immovable, it's all the same type of concept. Now we're getting into the more interesting kind of cards whenever you can increase your tanker's attack by 15%, or this goes for pretty much any class and any stat. Increase your tanker's speed, you can increase a ranger's speed, a ranger's attack. Now this is very good for if you have, if the roles are switched. If your team has multiple tankers, or if your team has multiple supporters, then these cards could greatly benefit you in that sense. But again, it's only whenever the battle begins, so that's another thing you're going to have to toss up the validity of using this card versus another card of the same effect in 1-round matches. Now, for the Fast Supporter Rage card, I have actually decided to integrate this into my team, and it's for the same reason I integrated the other one. It increases my supporter's attack speed by 10% when the battle begins. Even though the battle is just beginning, if my supporter gets a humongous boost in that beginning section, then they're going to be able to get off the speed buff. Josephine is going to be able to put the speed buff on my team. Everybody will be taking multiple turns before the enemy, which gives me a great, a great setup to get my rage abilities ready, to get all my cooldowns off cooldown, and just position myself in a proper way to even affect the rest of my match all the way through the rest of the rounds, not just in the first round. So that's why I think speed is a little bit different if you have stuff like that integrated into your team. Now this card is a difficult one for me. I'm going to tell you, I was really thinking about putting this on my Amy. It basically, whenever your character is killed, they are granted a 20% of their total HP shield, and that can only happen one time whenever you're inflicted with the damage to take you to death. Now whether or not the damage also goes through the shield is enough to kill you, I don't know. That's why I wanted to test it, but I do not have space to actually fit it in my team with all the other cards I'm going to be using. So if you are using this card and you know if whenever your teammate dies, if the shield pretty much just brings them back to life, or if the shield is just basically added to their HP and can also be penetrated and you can still be one shot, let me know, because I'm very interested in knowing about that. Now these are a toss-up too. Now I decided to integrate one of these into my team, not this specific one, but let me go ahead and explain. Increase effect accuracy by 20% when the HP is 70% or above. So for first turns, or whenever you are above 70% HP, that's pretty much a full set bonus of Conquest being added on your character. I decided that I might want to put this on one of my characters, because if you look at this one, increases effect accuracy by 20% when the defense is 70% or above. So basically the only way that my unit will be losing this effect accuracy bonus is if they get defense broken. So that, of course, if they get defense broken, that's going to be pretty detrimental, because not only will they lose their defense, they'll also lose the accuracy. But whenever the defense break is cleansed or falls off, I will be able to get that back, and their defense break is much harder to accomplish than it is to do 30% of someone's HP. So I think this would also be a good addition to my team. Now this card, I'm a little bit of a toss-up. Increases defense by 30% when the HP is 30% or below. If your HP is 30% or below already, it's going to be pretty clutch for you to be able to survive another attack. You need a lot of HP and a lot of defense for that to even matter in the first place. So if that works for you, then great. I don't think it's going to work for my team. Now these cards were hard for me to pick. Like, it was hard for me to not pick these. So these types of cards recover the attack bar or your rage bar whenever you're inflicted with damage that's 15% or above the total HP at once. So if your Amy gets hit with an attack that, you know, does more than 15% of her HP, obviously it probably will, because Amy's not a very tanky character. She will get 100 of her attack bar right off the bat. And if she is hit with multiple hits, then she could actually get more, because say, for example, Amy shoots like 7 times or Marissa hits like 3 or 4 times. If Marissa goes on somebody, she is obviously going to do more than 15% of their HP, so she will pump up their attack bar, pump up their attack bar, and pump up their attack bar. So that is super cool, and I was actually really interested in that as well, because there's so many different effects like this. Like, you can get a protection effect up to 10% of your total HP whenever you're inflicted with that damage. So basically, if she gets on somebody and hits them, they get 10% of their HP back. Hits them again with her combo, 10%, and that could just really chain up and be a really interesting thing to deal with. This one straight up decreases the damage, so if you're getting hit with multi-hits that do a lot of damage, the damage is just practically decreased by 15%, as well as if you're getting nuked for that much damage, then the damage will be decreased as well. So I think those are very cool. So if you are putting those on your team, or if you are at a loss for what card to put on your team, these are something very nice to look at. These are a little bit weird for me. Additionally fills up your attack bar by 200 when you defeat an enemy. And these ones also like recover your HP, recover your rage bar, increase your attack whenever you defeat enemies. Some of them are a little bit specific, like this one. Increases your attack by 20% when you defeat an enemy mercenary. So in the arena, obviously, is where that is going to be most prevalent, or in, you know, non-boss fights that have mercenaries in them. That's going to be very nice increase in your damage, but it's a little bit situational, so it is hard for me to decide whether or not I would want that in my team. But 200 attack bar is a lot. The thing about cards like this as well is the requirements can be a little sketch. So this one, you get 200 attack bar when an ally is defeated. So maybe if you have Christopher and you have a bunch of revives, then that doesn't really matter. But for us that aren't using Christopher or aren't using revives, it's going to be, you know, by the time one of our mercenaries is getting defeated, especially for a team like mine where everybody is kind of synergized, so everyone should be dying around the same time, I don't think it benefits my team, but it could possibly benefit a lot of teams out there. These are the big ones to me. Like, if you want to get your rage attacks off, your attacks off as fast as possible, my technique, of course, is to move quick, fast, get all of my stuff off as fast as possible. I like the ones that increase my attack bar, so I'm definitely putting that into my team. But if you have a really good rage skill that is just a game changer, then this could be a good one to have on your team too, so that you start with an initial rage already built into your character. This one is interesting to me too. Steals the rage bar of the enemy who attacked you with a crit by 10. So if somebody has a lot of crit rate and multi-hits you, like Marissa, and then you can pretty much ensure that she never does actually get to use her rage attack on you in the arena. Again, situational. All of this is situational. Everything in the game is situational. This card is good if it's sitting in your backlogs and you don't have anyone to really gauge whether you want a card on them or not, a specific one. This is a good one, especially for working on bosses. As we know, with multi-weight boss fights, we like to end on our first turn, start ending turns on the last enemy to increase our rage bar. So if somebody's getting their rage bar a little bit slower than the rest of your team, this could fill that gap. Now this one, Hartmann Solution Rage card, I've definitely decided to integrate into my team for a very specific reason. Recovers the HP by 7% of the total HP whenever you get a turn. So like on Pokemon, it's like Leftovers, or if it's like Summoner's War, it's like Camilla, where you recover a little bit of your HP every single turn. Now for mercenaries that must sacrifice their HP in order to make moves, like Bannon, he must sacrifice 10% of his HP in order to do his heals. This essentially not quite removes the requirement, but it makes it much less prevalent, because there has been multiple times where I've been unable to do a heal simply because I did not have enough HP on Bannon, and that could have saved me. So I think this is going to counteract such a negative, such a con that he has, because that is a very bad feature that can get you into a lot of trouble, and this essentially negates that. And if you have a tanker, and your tanker just takes a little bit of damage every turn, this could help ensure that you don't have to waste a turn healing them. This is a pretty situational card, but it also seems very useful to me. And last, increase the XP amount all allies acquire by 5%. Sure, whatever. I guess if you have absolutely nothing else, that'll be fine. Whenever you finish 20 matches, or 2 times 10s, it'll essentially be like you got a free round. So, okay, whatever. Now, let's say you've gone ahead and you've picked your cards and you've picked your units and you've assigned all your cards and units, but you actually don't have the ones you need. So this is a little bit of a beginner tip right here. If you didn't know, you can actually open the card draw and there is a rotation that explains to you which cards are coming up in a future rotation. So for example, if you want to do a normal draw to draw your card, you can see if you click on the view rate up cards, you can click on the list. So this is actually how I was able to get my attack bar card today, because I saw it was active today. So doing a times 10 pull for it gave me a very increased chance for me to get that. And these are all labeled by how many days they are away from being in the rotation. So if any of these cards are necessary for your team, D1 is 1 day away, D2 2 day away, etc, etc. So if you can identify the card you need by its icon, you can hold and click them as well to see the names if you need to. This is how you can see when you should be saving your friendship tokens and your card draws to try and get the card you need. Now, say you have the cards that you need, but they're at a very undesirable grade. For example, I do have Hartmann Solution for Bannon, but it is at only a rare quality. So we can actually go ahead and power them up to 20. And then once you have powered them up to 20, you can rank them up to the next rank. So we can take a rare card all the way to SSR +3, just using the tokens that are available to us through promoting cards to +20 and disassembling cards. So once you have those tokens and you have the requirements, you can also put them in the card research to level them up from 1 to 20, get even more tokens, disassemble even more cards that you're sure you don't need, and get all the resources you need to put these up to maximum, so that we could start promoting these cards. And whenever you promote these, they promote your rage skills. So we do need promotion cards from the arena shop and from just the shop refreshes and events in general to be focused into these, because it's very difficult to get a duplicate card or a duplicate SSR rage card. It's much easier to get the heroes. So this is going to be the best way for us to do that if we don't have instant access to the SSR card. Whenever you're disassembling cards, you do need to be careful. Make sure you've gone through all the previous steps already, because if we go to my card book, we can see that the last card I need is actually my Talus card. So if we would have just been patient and not, jump the gun, disassembling cards, leveling up cards and stuff, I actually had the card that I needed right here. And if we see, I already had it at level 20, I already had it at SR, it was completely ready to be promoted to SSR, but I had not gone through these previous steps already to see who I wanted on my team, and I actually ended up wasting that opportunity and wasting a lot of time, because now this card is like several days away, and it's going to take me a long time to actually get to my final goal of rage cards on my team. And that's going to do it for today, guys. I got to level 60 last night, so that's great for me. I'm very excited about that. A lot of my guild members have been level 60 for a while, but I just wanted to go ahead and go over this because, again, I like to share my experiences with you guys. I'm not trying in any way to say that I'm, smarter, better, I know anything more than anyone else. Just, the problems I'm having, the experiences I'm having, it's all just based on how I can help you guys so that you don't have to make the same mistakes I did. But other than that, that's going to be it for me. I'll see y'all later. Bye.